What's up, everybody? Welcome to the J72 Gaming channel. My name is Jacob, but you guys could just call me Jay here. And once again, it's time for an Isle tier list, everyone's favorite, right? I love talking about it. You guys love watching it. So let's get into it, right? About a month ago or so, we got the update with 3 new playables. They had been in the horde test for a long time, a time frame. But we now have the Diabloceratops, a new trike. We have Herrera, which is able to climb around on trees and stuff, and then we have the Dilo, which is like a nighttime venom poison kind of fighter. So let's go ahead and get into it. In this tier list, I'm gonna be kind of casual with it, guys. I'm just gonna talk to you about my my experience with these creatures, how they played out over time from my knowledge base, and yeah, I'll put some stuff on screen so you guys can see interesting things. But really, this is just gonna be kind of one take. I'm just gonna kind of talk to you guys, just kind of sitting down, right? No script, just hanging out and telling you guys what I feel about the creatures. Now let's get into the tier list. Now I did find someone who already made a tier list for me. It's not the best picture for Galli and Diablo, but that's fine. They're here on the list, and that's what matters. So let's go ahead and start in order, and we'll just go down the list, shall we? Now, for the Beipiaosaurus, I really enjoy the Beipi. The Beipi, I'm going to say this for a few creatures as we get going. The Beipi is really good because it's a semi-aquatic, right? The semi-aquatic creatures in this game are able to, go on land and go in the water, which gives them, in my opinion, like twice as much land just to play with. Now, obviously, they can't go super far inland, or they can, but they might not survive. I have seen crocs do some crazy things. But generally, they need to stay to the riverways and, the swamps. And this new map, Gateway, is so much better than is the Spyro one in the past. It's just got so many more routes and so many more interesting little nooks and crannies, like in the riverlands and in the swamp, and there's more lakes and stuff to have the semi-aquatics try to travel to. Once they get to that lake, more or less, they're going to be one of the only few creatures there, right? Like you see crocs a lot of the time will go up to the highland lakes, and even Beipis and stuff like that. So very interesting stuff like that. But I think when it comes to a tier list, I really like the Beipi. I think it's pretty dang good. Now, obviously, it's not going to be killing anything, but it's a really, really enjoyable creature, and I'm going to happily put it up in A tier. I think the Beipi, in general, is one of the most fluid creatures to play. And what I mean by that is it just feels good to play. The animation when you're a little Beipi and you run, you jump into the water, is one of the most satisfying things, and the Herrera has it too, but it's one of the most satisfying things in this game, in my opinion. There's just something about it, man. And also doing the dolphin dive up and down to travel down the riverways, it's just really satisfying, and I think this is one of the best pack creatures to play too. Just nest somewhere, try to make friends with a croc, but don't trust them. Never trust a croc. And yeah, I just hang out as the murder duck, if you will. It's a good time. All right, next up we have the Carnotaurus. Now, if you guys saw my last tier lists, I've done a few of these, I gave Carno an S tier, and that was because running around on the map and just being able to like fluidly turn and dodge and slide and do Tokyo drift, right, with the Carno was a lot of fun. However, I think when we take a look at where Carno is now, I think it has dropped from S to A. I still think it's great, and I actually do think it's above Beipi. But it's had a little bit of... It's struggled a little bit, in my opinion. There are a few other creatures, I think, now that are just more enjoyable. Still, personally, for me, I really enjoy the Carno, don't get me wrong. And they actually, on the horde test, as of this recording, I'm recording spoiler alert on 9/11, never forget, rest in peace everybody for that, but yeah, recording on September. We just had a horde test update, and they actually did change a lot about the Carno. They made it a little bit smaller to more accurately reflect its size in reality with the fossil records, which I think is a good thing. Being lore accurate is always fun and good, but not necessary, right? But it is cool. However, they changed the size, and they also, to accommodate for that, they actually reduced the amount of stamina it takes for the Carnotaurus to do the head charge, which I think is cool. So it's taken the Carno from, it used to be the apex predator in the Isle, and then Ceratosaurus came out, and Cerata kind of forced Carno to be a little bit more of a ambush predator. But now with the reduced size and the charged stamina drain decrease, it can really fulfill that role of like a small ambush predator, right? So it's all about speed. You kind of want to be sneaky, then you want to surprise the person, do your head charge, knock them down, and chomp them a few times before they can get up. And like that's the way the Carno gameplay is leaning more towards that than it was before, which was really just kind of like Utah gameplay, or sorry, Omniraptor. I'm just gonna call him Raptor. It's kind of like Raptor gameplay without the pounce, right? Where you just kind of want to be quick, you want to get in, do a quick bite, and then get out. So they're making it more unique, in my opinion, and that's cool. But compared to some of the other things on the roster, I think it's moved down here to A tier. So yeah, we'll get to why I think a few more creatures here are S tier above Carno. But Carno's a great pick. You're going to have fun with it. Anything in A tier is going to be a good time. Even stuff in B tier is going to be a good time. So once you start getting to C, D, and definitely F, where things really fall apart. All right. Speaking of the alpha predator that took over Carno, let's talk about Ceratosaurus. Now, Ceratosaurus, I haven't played a whole lot of, I'll be real. I've played maybe 1 or 2 full lives of the Cera. I'm much more of a, well, we'll get to who I play a little bit more when we get to them. But I do like the Cera. I really like its addition. I think its unique take of being able to eat anything, whether or not it's decaying, is really cool. And in fact, the more things you eat while you're decaying, the more like decay bite and venom you have on your bites to mess with your opponents, right? Because if you're the Cerato and you bite your opponent, the opponent will puke, which is cool. But I think in reality, most of the times the Cera bites you, you're dying pretty quickly after. So I haven't really been puking after being hit by a Cera. I usually just die once I get hit by a Cera. You know what I mean? The Cerato is not the fastest in the game at all by any regard, and so for me, I like to play faster creatures like the Carno and even like the Galley and stuff like that. Just whipping around the map is a lot more fun for me personally, so that's why I don't play the Cerato as much. But for its addition to the game, I think it's great. I think it's really fulfills that alpha role currently, right? Or the apex is what I should say, the apex role. And I think once T-Rex comes in, and specifically Triceratops, once we get those 2 big apex predators in, it's really going to help fill out the roster. Because right now the roster's great, but we have kind of like medium-sized creatures that are the biggest right now, right? Think like Stego, think Cerato, and the Deinosuchus is kind of its own category, but it's also there with the apex, right? So when we look back at the tier list, I'm going to actually put Cerato at B. I really like its inclusion. I think if you're trying to play a big, mean theropod, it's got what you want, and it's also got the interesting take where you can kind of eat whatever you want. In fact, you want to eat stuff that other creatures can't, but you can go to the corpses that people do want to try to kill, right, the Carnos that are there or whatever. Although Carnos are probably just going to outrun you. But regardless, I like the Cerato. I think some people would probably put it S for sure, but this is my tier list. For me, it's a B, and I think it'll be happily sitting there. Now let's talk about the Croc, shall we? I love the Deinosuchus. And the Deinosuchus is an interesting creature for me personally. As a content creator and a streamer, I can't really stream this Croc because the gameplay is a mixture of like super calming, relaxing experiences, right? Where you're just literally floating down a river, right? Or you're just parked waiting for somebody to come by so that you can get that flip of adrenaline, right? And your heart just starts beating crazily, and then you go for the lunge. And it's an interesting experience. It's so different than everything else here in the roster, both for where it can go. It's like the Beipi, where it can't go many places, but it can go land and all the waterways, which is fun. So semi-aquatic gets a plus. But yeah, its gameplay is very patient. It's in a way like the Herrera, right? Like you've got to be a patient ambush predator and just wait for somebody to come by. And so that can be very boring for some people. But I play it when I want to relax, if I'm honest. The crocodile is so relaxing in a weird way, and then of course, when you go for the lunge, it's incredibly, almost the most enthralling character to play in the roster. But when you get down to the nitty-gritty here for the Deinosuchus, I think it's either F or S, depending on your situation. But I'm going to put it S tier. This is the only game that I've ever played that makes crocodiles feel like a crocodile. You know what I mean? It's so well done. It's so much fun. And yeah, just being able to get successful lunges is incredible. And I would actually say getting a Deinosuchus to full adult is the hardest challenge in the Isle currently. They're the hardest one to get to full adults. There's weird challenges you can make for yourself, and I do them a lot on my channel. Check them out. It's a selfless plug. But yeah, getting a crocodile to adult is extremely difficult, and I highly recommend you all try it. And I do plan to make a video pretty soon on kind of like good tips on how to play the Deinosuchus. But yeah, I love it. S tier for the Deinosuchus. Okay, let's talk about the Dibble. Now, the Dibble, I've actually only played it once, but that one playthrough was like 10 hours. Like, I got it to adult and roamed around with the adult, and unfortunately, it died to a crocodile. Because I was still it was early days, right? It had just released. I didn't play it much on horde testing because I had actually taken a break from the Isle for a while until this most recent update kind of brought me back, and I was like, hey, migration changes, like the migration zone, they changed the diets a little bit, and all the new playables really made me more interested in the game, so I'm back, baby. But yeah, I hopped in and I played the Diablo. And now the Diablo is pretty fun, right? It's got its fun mechanic where you can hold control and you kind of go into your what are they called? The stance where you're like dueling, right? But that essentially gives you like alt turn from Path of Titans. If you guys have played that, right? Where you hold a button, you can kind of move your character around. You can strafe, move back and forward, which is, in my opinion, severely missing from a lot of these creatures. The controls on the Isle aren't bad at all, but they can be a little janky at times, and so the Diablo having that ability to move like that adds a lot of functionality to the creature and adds a lot of gameplay, in my opinion, on like how to control them, right? Now, as far as it compared to the other classes, I really like any type of Triceratops, or Ceratops, I should say. Yeah, Ceratopsian, and I'm going to really enjoy playing the Triceratops, having the new big apex herbivore, right? So the Diablo for me is that, but not all the way, right? They are a little bit faster, which is nice than what the Trike will be, and currently they are, I would say, one of the strongest, if not the strongest creature to play in Isle of Evrima, just in the regards that, yeah, they're a Triceratops, or they're a Ceratops. You really don't want to hit them anywhere near their face, right? And so it's very easy for a Ceratops player to pivot and to like, if it's a one-on-one fight, it's very difficult. And if it's multiple, you still have that alt attack with the Cera where you can kind of 180 attack, and it's very quick with the Diablo. And also, well, side note, currently the hitbox is huge, so it's very easy and quick to hit people with the Diablo. So I really like it. I think it's a great creature in this game, if I'm honest, and the addition into the roster here really helped fill out the niche of, like, you know, you have a Stegosaurus, you've got kind of a quick one in the Tenno, you've got the bonker in the Pachy, and so having another bonker, but like a slow, beefy bonker, does help fill out the roster a little bit more, and I really like it. So I'm not sure exactly where I'm going to put this. Once the Triceratops comes out and once the Rex comes out, I think Diablo might be played a little bit less. However, currently, I am going to put it right here next to Carno. I think it is one of the most interesting herbivores to play currently, and you can't go wrong with the Diablo right now, in my opinion. I definitely recommend playing it. Try to get in a herd. Lots of people are playing it, even right now to this day, like a month after release. It's very popular. So, yeah, give it a shot and enjoy. Okay, so next we have the Diablo, or sorry, we just did Diablo. We have the Dilo. Now, Dilophosaurus, in general, is one of my all-time favorite dinosaurs. I think it's really cool. I also prefer this version than the frilly Jurassic Park spitting version, which is fun and, theatrical in a way, but it's not really fossil accurate. And so I think this style of Dilo, it just hits better. It looks more interesting to me. It's just more fun in general. Now, as far as where to put it, I actually think I'm going to put the Dilo here in B, probably right above Cerato. They're pretty much the same in my opinion. And the main reason I'm going to do that is the Dilo is fun, and you can have a lot of good experiences with the Dilo, right? Its whole gimmick of being able to see really well at night is good, even with the old night vision. But the new night vision specifically is a little OP. The new night vision on the Horde test, I think it's actually too strong. I kind of hope they pull it back, because it's basically like daytime when you're playing any creature, but specifically the Dilo can see at night, as well as during the day, which is a cool gimmick. And I think the Dilo should always be able to see perfectly at night, more or less, right? Like that's their niche, is a nighttime ambusher. And they also have that cool mechanic where, you know, if they bite somebody, the other player gets like this weird fog of war around them where they start seeing hallucinations and they see like multiple Dilos running around, and so they don't really know which one's the actual player. That's cool, right? But as far as you playing the Dilo, it kind of feels like a weak Carno in a way. It's frailer than a Carno. It's almost as fast as a Carno, and I actually did learn that a Carno player with no mutation for extra speed is actually a little bit slower than a Dilo with mutation for speed. So keep that in mind if you want to play a Dilo. Maybe get that speed at night or the speed at daytime boost mutation, and you're going to be the fastest thing in the game besides the Galley, which is interesting to say the least. But yeah, I'm going to stick the Dilo here in B tier because I think there's a creature coming up that does what the Dilo wants to do a little bit better. And currently it just feels like a Carno that is a little bit frailer. It's more agile, sure. But yeah, it's going to sit in B tier here with the Ceratosaurus. All right, next up we have the Dryo. And I'm sorry, Dryo players, this thing just doesn't have mechanics, and so I'm not going to talk much longer on the Dryo. It fails. This is fail tier. Once the Dryo gets burrow mechanics, then maybe C tier for some fun additional, gameplay styles, just to kind of try to survive, make a big herd. I can see it being entertaining in that regard, but currently all it has is this little dodge, and its little dodge doesn't even move far enough for the hitboxes of other creatures to not hit them when they dodge anyway. So the dodge is worthless. It can't burrow. It's the weakest. I think we should have AI Dryos again. I don't know. It's just, it fails. So sorry, Dryos. Fail tier. All right. Time to talk about the other prey item here in Evrima. The Gallimimus. Now, I am a big fan of Gallimimuses. I'm a big fan of Struthy Mimuses in Path of Titans, and we'll get to what I rank it in just a second, but I really like the Gallimimus for a specific reason, and that's if you want to do some testing of the game, you want to explore the map from a terrestrial level, not from the air, like a Pteranodon, and you just want to see where diets are, you want to kind of almost be like a spectator, right? Like, you got to be still careful because you can get caught out by, a creeping Carno, or you can get killed most of the time by a croc, by a Deinosuchus, chilling in the water when you need a drink. But the Gallimimus, I think, is one of the best creatures to introduce somebody to the game, right? If they want to play an herbivore, put them on a Galley if they've never played the game before. They'll get to experience the diets, they'll get to experience, the stamina system, the health system, all the water and all that stuff, and you'll be able to traverse the map. Migration zones are easy because you're basically the first person who gets there if you head off right when you need to. So yeah, they're a lot of fun. Now, as far as compared to the other creatures on the roster, I don't know if you have as much fun as the Deinosuchus. I don't think it's as much fun as the three here in A tier. So I'm going to put the Galley in B tier simply because you can't really go wrong with it. But it's also, it's just is kind of a basic creature. Now, what I will say is if you got a fully grown Gallimimus and you've got like a young Dilo or a young Carno or something coming at you thinking that they can take you out, you can kick pretty dang strong. Don't underestimate the kick of a Galley. I've killed a lot of kind of like younger theropods with fully grown Gallimimuses just because they think, oh, it's a prey item, and before they know it, you're running circles around them, kicking them in the face, and then they die. So, the Galley's got a little bit of combat prowess to it. I think Carno versus Galley is a great match, depending on the sizes. You can have a lot of fun there, and I've actually been in both sides of the equation on that fight. So, fairly decent creature, and that's why I'm going to drop it here in B tier. Okay, guys, now let's talk about the Herrerasaurus, and straight up, boom, S tier. Without a doubt. Herrerasaurus, coming back to the game, has been the creature I keep logging on to play. It is so much fun being able to be an ambush predator from the sky and just kind of lunge your way down on creatures. I've gotten so many kills on people that, one, didn't expect me, but even people that did expect me, right? They'd like chase me up a tree, and before they know it, I'm climbing the tree, and then they're walking away like, ha ha ha, I scared them off, and then I jump back on them, and now they're dead. The Herrera's great. The climbing mechanism in the game is really impressive. It's so much fun to like leap to and from tree branches and rocks and you know, creatures, stuff like that. It's S tier for sure. I really love the Herrera. There's also a cool little throat pouch that you can do, little mechanic where you can do I think it's control. No, you hold F and then you right click, and your throat patch will come out, and it glows in the dark, which is just unnecessary but kind of cool, right? So yeah, I am happy to put this guy up in S tier. Now, between these two, again, it really depends on what you're trying to get out of the game. I think for most people, Herrera is probably more fun than the Deinosuchus, but at moments, the Deinosuchus has really, really intense gameplay. Again, Dino can be here or here, right, depending on the moment of gameplay. You're either doing nothing or you're having the time of your life attacking people while they drink water. But Herrera, in general, you've always got a safe spot, running up to trees, running up to rocks, and then you gotta worry about the Herrera. It'll get you. Little tree assassins. All right. Next up, we have the Hypsilophodon. Now, the Hypsi, I think, is probably a safe bet to put it in C. And most of you might think, oh, D or F, it doesn't do anything. And I would disagree in the sense that the Hypsi has the spit mechanic, and there's a lot of fun to be had with the spit mechanic. Just to kind of mess around. Honestly, if you guys just want a good time that doesn't have anything to lose, right? If you lose the Hypsi, whatever, man. It's a Hypsi. It's like, just get another Hypsi. But trying to sneak your way around and get successful spits off in people's faces is actually a lot of fun. It's more unexpected fun, I think, than you would expect, right? Unexpected. One of my earliest challenge series here on this channel was the Hypsilophodon spit challenge. And yeah, I was trying to spit in the face of every creature, and it was a good fun time. I might bring it back just because, one, you don't really see Hypsilophodon players. Two, if you're Hypsi and you do your little cry, right, the blah, whatever, people hear it and they're like, ooh, Hypsi player. You rarely see or hear Hypsis, and Hypsi's on like everything's diet pretty much. Not everything, but a lot of things, specifically Pteranodons. When I'm playing a Pteranodon and I hear that Hypsi call, I immediately turn to go find that Hypsi player, right? So Hypsi's great. It's a lot of fun. I can't give it, like, it's not as fun as these creatures above it, but it's a good time for what it is. So I don't want to rank it any lower than C, and I think it does well for itself for what it is. All right, let's talk about Utah. Psych! Let's talk about Omniraptor. Omniraptor, obvious S, A, or B tier in my opinion, but let's talk about what I think it is. Now, earlier when I was talking about the Dilo, I said that I think there's a creature that does what the Dilo wants to do currently in the game a little bit better, and that's the Raptors. Now, the Raptors and the Dilos, both you want to be in a pack group. You want to hunt in a group of minimum 3, in my opinion. Like, you can make it work with 2, sure, but you really want 3 so that the prey doesn't really know who to focus on. You can surround them, and the Raptor does it very, very well. Also, the Raptor is able to jump all over the place, right? It can get to some crazy places, and playing a Raptor in the new port on the Horde test, it just satisfies that Jurassic Park feeling, right? When in Jurassic Park they call them velociraptors, but let's be real, they were always Utah raptors. They're large. Velociraptors are tiny. We don't need to get into specifics, but I really like the Utah. As far as ranking goes, I think I'm going to drop them in A, but I'm going to put them at the top of A. I think when you're in a Utah pack, sorry, a Raptor pack, if you're in an Omni pack and you're having a good time and you guys are successfully getting kills, it's a great time. You're also going to be losing members left and right, so it's got that high intensity gameplay mixed with like the sadness of losing a friend that you just made in the game, which is sad, yeah, but does fuel more of an interesting gameplay experience, right? So I'm really happy to put the raptor up here at A. I do think this is an example of another creature that a lot of people might put up at up at S tier. But for me personally, I've got a few more creatures that I just think are way more interesting to play. So I'm going to happily put the raptor here at A tier. Its pounce mechanic is also, people have talked about it needing balancing till the end of time, and we will continue to talk about it until the end of time. Also, my dog wants to say hi. Hello, drummer. Say hi to the people. But yeah, it's a good play. You're going to have a good time. I think if you're introducing people to the game, like I said, if they say herbivore, have them play the Gallimimus for the first time. But if they say carnivore, you guys should hop on raptors and know that you're scared of things, but you're also able to kill things too. So it's a great middle ground gameplay experience. And yeah, I think the Omniraptor, which I'm just going to try to call Raptor, is a solid top of A tier. All right. Now let's talk about the bonk master himself, the Pachycephalosaurus. Now, the Pachycephalosaurus is a good time. You're pretty quick when you're running around. You're not the fastest, but you're not the slowest by any regard. And just being able to bonk things is I mean, everyone loves it, right? It's so much fun. Currently, however, I've heard a lot of people who play Pachy and have played it since its existence. It was getting nerfed and nerfed and nerfed. And so unfortunately, it doesn't quite fight as well as it could, right? You're going to need more skill to play a Pachy compared to like a Diablo, right? Diablo, you just kind of look in the direction and click. You're not going to be able to kill that easily as the Pachy. However, the Pachy, I was playing it recently, the Pachy's migration zones are separate and in kind of different locations than the Diablo and the Stego, which are the main ones you're going to notice, in my opinion. They're the biggest creatures, so you just notice those guys more often. And so the Pachy's gameplay as far as migration zone makes it really easy to play, honestly. You're not ever really worried. And I think that's why people don't see Pachy's very often, right? They're like avoiding the crowd, more or less. And that's good to survive, not great for exciting gameplay. So as far as where to put them on a tier list, I think I'm going to drop them in B here with the other playables that are fun, but not the greatest. I do think, however, they're a little bit more fun than Gally, and they fit kind of in the same area as these three. I'd put them all, they're interchangeable at this point, right? You can kind of do whatever you want with these. But yeah, I'm going to put them right there, and Pachy's fun. Can't go wrong with it, but you can do better, in my opinion. Okay, guys, time to talk about the heartbreak that is Pteranodon. Now, if you guys have seen some of my old videos, you will know that I put the Pteranodon at S tier. There's just something about flying and trying to like peck and kill smaller creatures that was just so enjoyable in the past. However, they just ruined, in my opinion, Pteranodon with two things. First, they nerfed the damage your pecks do because they were tired of people harassing other players and just pecking and pecking and pecking and pecking, eventually killing. And that's fair. I don't think that the Pteranodon should be able to kill a Carno if it manages to peck him, 50 times or whatever. But they nerfed the damage so much that it really can't do anything now. I remember I was playing a Pteranodon and a little baby Herrera sat near me. I did this in my pecking challenge. I was like 70% grown, so I was a pretty large Pteranodon at that point, and I hopped off, and it still took 3 pecks to kill the Herrera. And it was like, look, man, if the Herrera's tiny, and I'm big, and I'm hitting him on the ground when he's sitting, that should probably be a one-hit kill, right? So they nerfed the damage, and that's fine if you keep the stamina up. However, not only did they nerf the damage, but they also nerfed the stamina. And now the stamina regen for the Pteranodon is the worst in the game. Also, I'm not necessarily putting it C tier. Just had it resting there. It's frustrating. And it makes the gameplay go from S, in my opinion, all the way down, dude. It goes all the way down to D. It is so frustrating. Look, flying around is fun, sure. And it's the best way to explore the map, sure. Forgot I wasn't showing you guys this. I think it's D tier. It's frustrating. What do I say, man? It broke my heart. The Pteranodon used to be so enjoyable to play, and now you get to fly around for a minute, 2, maybe 3 minutes if you get, like, if you're up at the top and you get a long flight. But man, you can't even get into combat now without, swooping and diving and just draining your stam, and then you need to sit for literally 4 to 5 minutes to get your stamina back, which is, like I said, the worst stamina regain in the game currently. And they've just done everything they possibly could do to absolutely tank the gameplay experience of the Pteranodon. So, unfortunately, my favorite has fallen from grace. I'm going to put it in D. I do think maybe C tier is fine, but just to make a statement, I'm putting it in D here because, man, have they broke my heart. It's a bummer. All right, let's move on to the current herbivore apex in the game, the Stegosaurus. Now, the Stegosaurus, for me, isn't really my cup of tea. I'm not going to lie. I haven't bothered playing one in a long time because they move, in my opinion, too slow. When you're young, you kind of either need to find a herd to keep you alive or be really, really, really safe, right? Which, in a way, ends up you kind of just sitting in bush for a lot of your life. You kind of want to sit in a bush more on a stego than on any other creature, in my opinion. And so it's a frustrating, kind of boring gameplay when you're young. And then when you're at a certain size, you get to the point where most things don't want to fight you, with the exception of maybe a pack of raptors, maybe a fully grown pair of Ceratos that have already fought and killed everything, and then now they're like, okay, I want a challenge, right? Unless you find the players that are looking for a fight, looking for a challenging fight, nothing's going to mess with you, right? Not only that, is your migration zones are kind of just the same as the Diablo, so you can pair with the Diablo, which is nice, but it does make you walk a lot of the map. And when I was playing my Diablo, I was actually paired up with a player who, his friend was playing a Stego. So I played alongside the Stego a lot. And the Stego was just kind of complaining the whole time. He was like, man, we got to move again. So while I think combat-wise, sure, S or A, if you want something that can win pretty much every fight, you'll do good. And if you want something that plays really well in a giant herd, sure, you can have fun grouping up and being like the big guy who protects everyone. However, if I'm going to be honest with you guys, I'm putting it C tier. I'll put it above Hypsi just because it is the apex. But this is about the level of enjoyability I have. I have as much fun with the Hypsi, if not more with the Hypsi, to be honest, than I do as a Stego. So I think once the Stego has something a little bit bigger to actually be afraid of, and once the trike and the T-Rex comes in, I'll probably put the Stego back up in B. But currently, with the current patch of Gateway in Evrima, I'm going to put this guy in C. And sorry if that bothers you, but that's just the reality, man. I just don't have as much fun with the Stego as I do everything above it. All right, time for Tanatosaurus, the OG of Evrima. The Carno, the Utah, and the Raptor. Oh my god. I'm going to call it Utah until end of time. Sue me in the comment sections. Doesn't matter. Tanatosaurus is one of the OG members of this roster, and I've been saying for a long time that it is a great playable. It's fast. It does kind of the same gameplay as a Stego in the sense where you want to aim your tail towards people so you can either kick them up close or slap them with the tail to knock them down. And so it gives you the gameplay experience of the Stegosaurus, but you're faster, you're more nimble, and it just feels more fun to play. You know what I mean? As far as tier list goes, I really like the Tenno. I want to actually put it up here, and I'm gonna slide it right up here next to the Carno. These two, in my opinion, are equal. Okay, if you want to play a theropod carnivore, play the Carno, and if you want to play a fast grass-eating herbivore, play the Tenno. You can't go wrong with them. This is one of the best creatures to explore the map, and it has a lot of skill in regards to being able to stay safe, to, you know, make sure you don't get bucked or pounced by raptors, and make sure you buck them off and then kick them in the face, right? It's got a lot of fun with the Ceratosaurus. And recently, I did find something that's a bummer about the Tenno, but it's more about a bummer as a whole for the map, not necessarily Tenno. But I made a video that most of you might have watched. If not, I highly recommend it. But the video was, can a Ceratosaurus live on the islands? Because some of its diets are coconuts and mangoes, which say they spawn on islands. And so I went out to the islands to find out if I could live out there. And spoiler alert, you can't really, which is a bummer, but mainly a bummer on the map. The Tenno can swim out there, and it can fully live out on the islands, which I think is cool. I just hope that they make the islands a little bit more interesting down the line, you know what I mean? All right, last but certainly not least, we have the Trodon. Trodon is pretty fun, guys. I'm not gonna lie. It's got the same experience as as the Raptor and the Dilo, right? You need to find a group. If you don't find a group, I don't know what you're doing with the Trodon, right? That's why you hear Trodons all the time out when you're playing the game. One, their call is iconic now. It's hilarious. But two, they need to call so you hear other Trodons call so that they can find each other to group up, right? Same thing with the Raptors. That's why you always hear the Raptors barking. Even Dilos, all pack animals, you always hear them barking and broadcasting because they need to find each other. And that's cool. I really like that gameplay experience. Side note, people always say that the general chat needs to come back. I disagree. I actually really like that you can only chat with your own species, and it makes it so that you do your broadcast calls instead of, hey, any other Trodons want to group up in South Plains, right? And someone's like, yeah, meet you by the river, right? No, instead of that, you got to go, ooh, and call out and hope to hear another ooh, off in the distance so you can run and meet each other. Now, as far as where it goes on the tier list, I want to drop it here at the end of B tier. It's a lot of fun, and it's kind of the same as Hypsi. Like, you can play a Trodon and not really worry about what's going on if you die. If you die, whatever. Play a new one, regroup, it's all good. You're going to get the pack dynamic of the Dilo and the Raptor, and a lot of Trodons, like 5, 6, 7 of them, they can really do some damage because they're really hard to hit. So if you have a lot of friends or maybe nest in a bunch of creatures, then your experience could be A. Heck, it could be the most fun you have in the game. But on a general basis, I think I'm going to stick it here at the end of B, pretty much the same as Galli, where it's fun, there's not much to lose, and you just generally can have a good time with them. Their poison venom mechanic is also pretty fun and can really mess with other creatures if you have a lot of them, like I said. But in general, they're just a small little raptor that's going to die with one bite from anything in the roster. So you're extremely frail, and because of that, they're not A or S tier for me, but I think B tier is a pretty safe spot to sit them. All right, folks. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's a little, like I said, no script, just me kind of rambling. There's lots of points I could make about these creatures that I didn't think of. Let me know down in the comments below on what you think I messed up and maybe what you disagree with. Also, if we're to guesstimate where the Triceratops and the T-Rex are going to go, I'm probably going to guess the T-Rex is probably A tier. It's going to be really fun, but it's going to be a really big challenge to grow. And the Triceratops, I think, will probably also sit in B tier. Similar to the Stego, it's going to be really good, but it might be too slow and boring and not have anything want to fight it. And as far as the other playables that are coming out, the Maiasaurus, probably similar to Tanato, so maybe A tier with that guy. Maybe B if it's a little bit slow and boring, but it'll be able to fight well and everything will want to kill it. And what else is coming out? Allosaurus. Allosaurus potentially S tier. It's got the good niche like the Carno, where it's going to be fast, but not too fast. It can throw its weight around, but it's also scared of T-Rexes. So honestly, I can see Allos in a group of 2 or 3 be an S tier. If not, solid pick in A tier. So yeah, guys, that's going to be the tier list. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Quick video for you guys. Let me know down below what I did wrong. Let me know what you would rank it. Let me know what you're excited for in Evrima. And just in general, I'm excited to be back to Evrima. Gateway has been a blast. Horde testing is a lot of fun. Go check out that port video I posted if you haven't seen it yet. I've also been streaming all the time. This game has been a lot of fun to stream, so subscribe now if you want to check out the streams. And join the Discord if you want to join the Sauropod squad over there. But until then, guys, I'm going to let you guys go. I've been Jay, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace out.